So speaking of entertainment, you obviously are one of the most polarizing figures in the entertainment realm. But just talking to you right now, very laid back, very charismatic. One of the things I want to bring up is your TED talk that I seen a while back,
Mhm.
and you were talking about the ability to kind of turn the switch on and turn it off to make people feel as opposed to make people think.
Right.
And with you, you've done such a great job at doing both. You make people feel a certain way, but in order to make people feel a certain way, you have to think about how you're going to make said person feel some type of way. So when you look at the landscape of professional wrestling today, and the biggest thing you hear about is demos and creative and certain terms like that, where a couple years ago it really wasn't as popular now, but everybody seems to, you learn a phrase and you think you know what you're talking about. So for a guy that's actually been in the industry, how much of that word demo uh is really important? And as far as what do you think the problem is with a lot of characters nowadays who can't seem to get over, or they complain about creative? What would your advice be to those guys as somebody who made it from nothing and has completely flipped that switch?
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about the discussion about demographics, in the wrestling media, and I find it really interesting because demographics and the 18 to 49 demo that everybody keeps talking about
Yes.
and comparing and analyzing in the wrestling internet community, it's not new. That measurement and the significance of that audience, that's one of the things that I did when I launched Nitro. Is I looked at the WWE, whose target audience at that time was teens and preteens, and you go back and you look at their show back before Nitro, particularly in the 80s, early 90s. That show was designed to sell ice cream bars and kids games and action figures and merchandise. It was targeted to teens and preteens. I knew when I launched Nitro, I couldn't compete with WWE in terms of trying to attract that audience. They were doing too great of a job, and they had been doing too great of a job for too long. I knew that the only way that I was going to be successful is to target an 18 to 49-year-old male demo. And by realizing that and committing to that, I knew that I had to change the nature of the product. It had to be appealing to an older audience. And there were a lot of reasons that we saw manifest on television. We saw what happened. Letting wrestlers use their own names, more adult themed, believable kind of reality based storylines. All those were things that I did to attract that 18 to 49-year-old demo. So it's not new. What's new is that the wrestling internet community is talking about it and trying to analyze it and project their knowledge of the industry by really referencing things that are out there in the public domain. You
Got
can
it.
read Ad Week, you can read, Show Buzz Daily, you can read any of the trade, magazines or online things out there. And you can, figure out that, okay, 18 to 49-year-old male demos, or 18 to 49 people, male and female, is a very attractive audience for advertisers. That's still not fucking new. It's always been that way, folks.
Right.
But because I think, and this is just something I've really started noticing a lot over the last couple of weeks, and think, I mean, I noticed it for longer, but I've really started thinking about it for the last few weeks. Because, for example, as soon as the AEW ratings came out yesterday, for example, one of the big AEW supporters who has his own, internet community, first thing he does, comes out and says, oh, AEW beat Monday Night Raw in the 18 to 49-year-old demo. Well, first of all, Monday Night Raw was up against Monday Night Football, and AEW was up against nothing.
Yeah.
So right off the bat, it's kind of a comparison. But okay. So, but what does it mean? And it really doesn't mean much when you think about it in its entirety. Because WWE, for example, on Friday night delivered 850,000 people in that demo compared to what AEW did on Wednesday night.
Right.
So there's a tendency now to compare things that cast your favorite brand or your favorite show in the best possible light in comparison to the WWE. Okay, if you get off on that, have at it. You know, it is a fraction of the overall equation. The overall equation is how many people are watching your show and buying tickets to your events,
Right,
and buying your pay-per-views. What is your internet? How much revenue are you generating with your property? That's the real metric. That's a measurement that people should be thinking about and putting into context. But that doesn't cast AEW in a favorable light. It doesn't make it look like they're winning. It makes it look like they're competing and they're doing a great job, which they are, by the way. I'm not being critical of what's going on in AEW at all. I'm very supportive of them and I'm very excited about their progress and all that. But I'm kind of realistic about shit too.
right.
You know, AEW, you know, they're patting themselves on the back and, you know, cracking champagne in the locker room because they delivered 1.1 million viewers on Wednesday night. Well, WWE delivered 2.3 million last Friday night.
Yeah.
So in context, what does 1/10 of a percentage in a specific demo really mean?
Right.
It means you got clickbait. It means you can write something that people will check out. It means that people will talk about it. It creates this feeling that, oh, there's a war coming. Yeah, everybody wants the Monday Night War to be back so bad that they're kind of picking and choosing little elements of the business, of the wrestling business, to use as an example of their belief that it's actually happening. It's not. It's not. And until AEW goes head to head in a real battle and actually takes market share, takes audience from WWE and moves it over to AEW's column, until that happens, it's like me talking shit about Conor McGregor.
Right.
You know, hey, I used to be a martial arts. You know, I used to be a Golden Gloves boxer. I wrestled in high school. I wrestled in college. I was a bouncer in a bar. You know, back in the day, I was kind of a badass. It doesn't mean I'm on the same level as Conor McGregor. So for me to talk shit, from the sidelines,
Right.
Doesn't really mean much. And I think people talking shit in comparison to WWE right now, in picking and choosing little elements and using that as your kind of basis for comparison, is a lot like me picking a fight with a legitimate, badass, from the comfort of my home here in Cody, Wyoming. I'm never really going to have to compete and prove anything.
Wrestling has more than one royal family.